Good evening and welcome to the council meeting of July 26, 2021. This meeting is being held in chambers and we are observing COVID-19 protocol. The meeting is being live streamed on Facebook Live. There is no public attendance currently permitted. And we are socially distanced, so I would ask members of council to speak up as we only have one directional speaker in the room. The most up-to-date meeting package is on the Town of Kentville website, and the public may send questions directly to recording secretary's email at jwest@kentville.ca. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting packages? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? I will remind members of council that we are in decision-making mode and we should be mindful of our decision-making wheel. We have committed to making balanced and respectful decisions and adhering to our code of conduct. This council, through policy, has adopted Robert's rules as our rules of order, our parliamentary procedure. And as the chair of the meeting, it is my responsibility to use those orders to ensure we get the business of the town done. We will be voting by electronic means for all votes except administrative. Are there any conflict of interest issues we should be aware of before the meeting commences? CEO Troke, could you please take the roll call?
Thank you, Mayor Snow, and I'm happy to say that all council is present and accounted for this evening.
Thank you very much. CEO, we have been provided with a proposed agenda. Do you have anything to add?
I do not have any updates at this time, Mayor Snow.
Okay, thank you. If we could have are there any further additions or deletions?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Snow. I wanted to add to the agenda the Kelly Rice document, only because the letter references council behavior, and I think anything that distinguishes council is not to be dealt with in camera according to the MGA.
All right, I will defer to the CAO and solicitor for further instructions on this matter.
Thank you, Mayor. So as council and the public are aware that this letter cannot be discussed in public without placing the town in legal jeopardy for the reasons set out in a lawyer's letter to Councillor Zabian, which he shared publicly. Furthermore, Councillor Zabian's discussion of this letter are subject of a legal action by the town against Councillor Zabian. So there was a letter moved forward to Councillor Zabian in an attempt to prevent the town from suffering any legal jeopardy. So first, I guess, if council is considering entertaining this onto the agenda, that's the first decision point. The second decision point would be that as the CAO, and I'm sure the solicitor could add to this, I'd strongly recommend that this conversation would be had in an in-camera setting.
Councillor Zabian?
No, I'm going to leave my request there. I guess it's up to council if you guys wish to partake in that.
All right. So your motion would be the council approve the adding of the letter to new business as item 6B.
Yeah.
And you're moving that?
I am moving.
Thank you. And the seconder?
I'll second it for discussion.
Councillor Maxwell, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the adding of the letter to new business item 6B. Is there any discussion on this matter? Councillor York.
As per the advice of our CAO, if it's going to be discussed, I think it ought to be discussed in camera. Is it an option to, would you be willing to talk about it in camera instead of?
I would prefer to discuss it publicly. I think if we don't, I think we're letting down our citizens and our staff. And I think it should be finally addressed now after a year.
Go
ahead.
Sorry, it would still be addressed. It would just be done in a way that we're not opening ourselves up to a potential legal action.
I disagree because
excuse me,
yeah,
you can't rebut. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, you had your hand up.
Thank you, Worship. In accordance with CAO Troke's comments, I think for the very purposes of allowing this to be discussed in an open session, we have to certainly refer back to the letter that John Shanks wrote to Councillor Zabian. And it was outlined in that letter as to why the Rice letter could not be discussed in an open platform, and also that if it was to be discussed, it has to be discussed in camera.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is there anything further on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to adding the letter to new business item 6B. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion is defeated. Are there any further additions or deletions to the agenda? If there are no further additions or deletions, I would accept a motion to accept our agenda.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. You have before you the set of minutes from the June 28, 2021 council meeting have been distributed for approval. If there are no changes, the minutes are approved as distributed. If there are changes, the recording secretary will annotate the minutes in red, and the annotated minutes will be added to the electronic meeting file as approved. Anything on those set of minutes? No? Moving on then. You also have been provided with the minutes of the July 12th meeting. And if there are no changes, the minutes are approved as distributed. If there are changes, the recording secretary will annotate the minutes. No changes to July 12th either? Perfect. All right, moving along. We have business arising, and it is second reading of the King's Regional Emergency Management Organization bylaw. First reading of the King's Regional Emergency Management Organization bylaw was approved at our June 28, 2021 council meeting. After consideration of the resolution, council is prepared to move forward with second reading. So the motion reads that council approves second reading of the King's Regional Emergency Management Organization bylaw. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approves second reading of the King's Regional Emergency Management Organization bylaw. Is there any discussion on this matter? No discussion. Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve second reading of the King's Regional Emergency Management Organization bylaw. Let's get it set up. The anticipation. Voting is now open.
So
If you pointed at the screen, Councillor Zabian, it should work.
I usually don't see over here. So that's what it is.
Definitely, this is the receiver right here.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It wouldn't be the screen.
So just try.
Looks like I have a faulty. You want to vote twice? I'll try what Deputy Mayor said. Yeah. No, I guess not. You record it verbally or?
Yes, we'll record it verbally.
Yes.
Voting is now closed. And you're voting for?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So the motion is carried.
Your Worship.
Yes.
Before you move on, just wanted to note to staff that, of course, this is the town of Kentville one, and the one that's been distributed still refers to this county, the county of Kings in the past. Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, all the references in that is distributed are to the municipality.
Okay.
I go one further down.
Yeah.
Perhaps it is.
It is. I think all of the municipal units are represented in that document.
Okay.
Yep.
They're all there. That explains it.
Okay, we're all good. All right, moving right along to our recommendations and reports. We do have recommendations arising from our CAC meeting on July 12th, and they will be presented and moved by Councillor Huntley.
Thank you, Mayor. At the July 12th, 2021 CAC meeting, staff presented a resolution for CAC's consideration to recommend to council to adopt several housekeeping items along with council's amendments to allow multi-residential within the C2 zone. It was requested, however, that the resolution be broken into two resolutions for council's consideration. And they are: 1, amend the MPS, the municipal planning strategy, and the LUB land use bylaw, excuse me, to adopt the various housekeeping items. And number 2, allow multi-residential development within the highway commercial in the C2 zone with a commercial component on the ground floor, and to include all C1 permitted commercial uses within the C2 zone.
Thank you, Councillor Huntley. So we'll break this into 2 motions. And our first motion is that council approve first reading of the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw amendment to adopt various housekeeping items.
So
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor York, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve first reading of the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw amendment to adopt the various housekeeping items. Is there any discussion on this matter? Question? Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve first reading of the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw amendment to adopt various housekeeping items. Voting is now open. It worked.
Got it? Magic touch.
okay.
Now must be the last one.
Jennifer,
It's now moved over here.
it has a total of 6. Is it probably because we have 7?
Shouldn't be.
Okay.
It's never been a problem before.
So it seems to be not counting the last one.
Okay. I think probably Councillor York.
Yes, thank you.
Maybe.
Okay, so you will, voting is now closed.
I vote yes.
Yes.
I vote yes.
All right, and the motion is carried. And Jennifer, you're figuring out how you're going to annotate the minutes with this, right? All right, and we have a part 2 to this bylaw amendment, and that is the C2 highway business. That council approve first reading of the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw amendment to allow multi-residential development within the highway commercial in the C2 zone with commercial component on the ground floor to include all C1 permitted commercial uses within the C2 zone.
So moved.
Thank you. And a seconder? Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council approve first reading of the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw amendments to allow multi-residential development within the highway commercial in the C2 zone and with a commercial component on the ground floor to include all C1 permitted commercial uses within the C2 zone. Is there any discussion on this matter? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I've brought this up before, and I'm very uncomfortable with doing this. It's the only spot that we have highway access to C2 buildings right now. And these C2 buildings are larger construction usually than C1. They take up a larger footprint and therefore would reap more taxes, tax revenue for the town of Kentville. I'm fearful that putting C1 uses on our only basically C2 land on this this highway will encourage other developers to want to put residential there as well, and we will lose the chance of the higher taxable income coming from C2. Already we have a McDonald's going into Colebrook, moving into the Parsons land on the other side of the paramedics building, and they didn't come to Kentville. And my concern is that this will become a trend, and we will lose out similar to as we have lost out with Numinus over the years. Future taxation dollars going to the county instead of coming to Kentville. And I've asked, to have this explained to me why it might be a good idea. Nobody has given me any response to that. For me, it's fiscally irresponsible for our financial future to give away our C2 land. And so I can't support this. Thank you.
Thank you for providing your position. Is there any further discussion on this matter?
Is it possible that the motion should also include to hold a public hearing in September? I believe it should have.
So you can schedule that.
That's already scheduled. So the solicitor has requested that it not be added to
Thank you.
the motions. Yes, thank you. So are you ready for the question? Oh, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Stowe. If it might please the rest of council, and I'm sort of putting CAO Troke on the spot here a little bit, but I know he has an excessive background in housing development, and I'm wondering if perhaps he might speak to Councillor Maxwell's concerns through the chair.
Okay, Your Worship, can I interject here? This
Yes.
might be a good time because it was mentioned about the public hearing.
Yes.
And I would really suggest to council that these are the discussions for after the public hearing. As a council, this is a question of whether at this point you have enough interest in moving this forward to hear from the public.
Okay.
Reserve your final decisions until you've heard from the public, and it's absolutely appropriate to seek additional input from your planning people, CAO, Director of Planning, those people as part of your future considerations. And a lot of that information should come forward for the public to hear as well. This at this stage is not really about trying to convince each other one way or another about the final result. It's about whether you should go to the public hearing or not.
All right. Deputy Mayor, does that?
I'm happy to withdraw.
All right, thank you.
My request to CAO Troke.
All right, then. Are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve first reading of the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw amendment to allow multi-residential development within the highway commercial in the C2 zone with a commercial component on the ground floor to include all C1 permitted commercial uses within the C2 zone.
So,
Oh, already done.
sorry.
Voting is now open. Oh, it all worked this time. All right, voting is now closed. And
mine was yes. I don't know. So,
and the motion is carried. And as a point, you should all have in your calendars right now for September 15th for the public hearing, and for the public as well. There will be advisories on our Facebook page as we get closer. Council does not typically meet in the month of August, but you may see something early in September with regards to the public hearing. So that's Wednesday, September 15th at 6 p.m. And if all goes well, we may even be allowed to use in person. All right, moving right along on our agenda.
My next recommendation is the Town of Kentville Accessibility Committee is making the following recommendation. That council approve the creation of the Kentville Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee as a standing committee council.
Thank you very much. So the motion is that council approve the creation of the Kentville Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee as a standing committee of council, including the terms of reference as presented. And further, that once approved, this information be added to the G57 committees of council policy.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. It has been moved and seconded that council approve the creation of the Kentville Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee as a standing committee of council, including the terms of reference as presented, and further that once approved, this information be added to the G57 committees of council policy. Is there any discussion on this matter? I had some feedback on an individual who had been on the advisory committee, and they were just so absolutely thrilled with the way that the town of Kentville had conducted that committee, and and their sense of truly contributing to how we see our town becoming more accessible and more inclusive. So it was one of those really nice chats that you have. All right, are you ready for the question? The question is on adoption of the motion to approve the creation of the Kemptville Access and Inclusion Advisory Committee as a standing committee of council, including the terms of reference as presented, and further that once approved, this information be added to the G57 Committees of Council policy. And voting is now open.
It is showing.
No, you got it.
No, but it's up there before I hit the button.
Okay, then re-hit what you selected just to make sure it didn't. Okay, voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. So until I say that voting is closed, you can change your mind or keep pushing your button to make sure it actually got what you said it was going to get. We will move on to our councillor reports. Councillor and mayor reports will be received as presented. Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Last council meeting was June the 28th. Last CAC was July the 12th. June 21st, I met with Dan regarding the process for hiring a new police chief. July the 19th, we had a special meeting. July 21st, we had police chief interviews. June 25th, the police commission met. We had discussion over policies and procedures for the commission. We had budget questions. Some on the commission questioned how the budget was done this year. Not the amounts, but the fact that the budget was late coming to council. It never made it to the police commission, but of course we explained to them that it was just sort of very abrupt the way that it was brought forward. Commissioner Walker's term as the provincial rep through DOJ is ending in August, and the DOJ has been in the past very slow in. I think Commissioner Walker, it took 2 years. The position was empty. Anyways, hopefully things have turned around. They've got a really good young lady who's in charge of things down there now. And I think Commissioner / Councillor York suggested or brought this up in her last report, but she has suggested town halls for the police commission and the police to be there, and I think that's an excellent idea. That is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gerard, with regards to the DOJ representative, does the police commission make a recommendation, and do we take applications, or is this purely provincial?
So I have suggested that we as well take in applications and send them off. The whole reason why there's a long process is because it's got to go through 2 different boards or committees down at DOJ. So if you go on the DOJ website and put commissions and committees, you will find that all of the open positions throughout the province are listed there, and you can apply.
Okay.
And I can certainly put that on my Facebook page for anyone that's interested.
All right. You might touch base with
already sent it.
Stern Beauty. Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, certainly.
As far as the budget goes, thinking that the commission thought it was rushed and late. CIO, was our budget process not earlier this year? And I'm wondering if that was explained to the commission, and why, in light of that, we would think that the chief was late with her budget. I'm wondering if the commission got that information.
The commission never saw the budget.
Was explained? Did you explain to the commission why they didn't see the budget?
Absolutely.
And what was that explanation?
That it was basically just brought straight to council.
Because because this was fast, right? Because our budget process was new this year.
Yep.
Fast. Okay, good. That's all I was wondering. And I noticed that you had Councillor York suggested town hall style meetings. I'm just wondering, Councillor York, if you could explain that a little bit more so we understand what that looks like.
Sure. So I did some training webinars when I first started with the Police Commission. And one of the things that I learned about was good governance within the Police Commission. And one of the things that they suggested, and this is out of Toronto, so it's a little bit different in terms of scale, but no less applicable. So one of the things that the Police Commission does is the governing board or body between the police service and the town of Kentville and the council. And one of the things they suggested was to be a little bit more accessible and a little bit more approachable with the citizens of the town that you're representing. So as a go-between between the Kentville Police Service and the council, it's a good way to make sure you're hearing the concerns directly from the citizens about the police service in terms of direction they want to see, good things, bad things, the whole mixed bag. And it's just a way as well for the commissioners and the police service to get a sense of what's happening in the community at maybe a little bit more formal level. The police certainly have a different advantage than the commission in that they're out on the street, they're walking the block, they're in their cars. But the police commission might not necessarily have that same connection. And so it's an opportunity both for the commission and the citizens to get to know one another and who their representatives are, and to get a bit of a better sense of what's happening in the community in terms of policing and what people would like to see. So I wanted to make sure that we were following best practices for police governing boards, and then also just to connect to the community a little bit better.
Okay, thank you very much. That sounds good.
All right, moving right along, Councillor Hutton, please.
Thank you. Same dates as Craig would have talked about for last council meeting, June 28th, and the CAC meeting was July 12th. For my committee meetings, June 30th, King's Transit. I'm on the recruitment committee and we've been doing interviewing, and just to give you an update right now, we had somebody hired there and they accepted another role. So we are continue to interview right now, and Ryan Smith is the interim general manager right now, helping out until we get somebody hired there. So we continue to interview. I haven't seen him yet, but we chatted and it's nice to have him aboard. July 14th, Kings Point to Point meeting. There was a business plan kickoff meeting presentation given by Acadia Entrepreneurship Center, as they will be completing this business plan for KPBT. So really, it was an introduction about them, what they do, just kind of asking members, what are they looking for? And then they'll put out a survey, we'll fill that out, and then it'll come back with more responses. So it'll be a continuous thing that I'll update you on. July 19th, accessibility meeting. The workshop was held for members with discussions on the 9 pillars and points from the plan and pull important focuses for the new committee to look at when it's formed. And this was the last meeting for this accessibility committee. And at the end of it, of course, we all sat around and they asked us, what do we hope to see from it? And it was, even at that moment, it was very enlightening to, again, I'm a newbie on this committee, but I took away so much from the members. And I was so proud to actually sit on that committee and see where it's going to go for this town. July 20th, the KTA had another hiring committee. We were doing second interviews for applicants, and then another day for July 21st, same thing. And then July 21st, that evening, Kings Point to Point committee, we reviewed any financials, office and chair report, any new business and correspondence. Next meeting is planned for September 15th, which of course in August they take a little break as well. Town of Kentville, I was honored to invite Landon to our town. And I got so excited when I saw him coming towards me. I said, but I was not only proud of Landon and his journey for awareness, but the residents of our town, they showed such support for him. And it really brought us together as one. And I'll tell you, one of the nice things that I really enjoyed, I was down at the end of Palmer, because I live up that way. And there was all kinds of residents there. And I thought, this is how it should be. This feels very normal. And it was a lovely day. July 23rd, the Kentville Mural Festival. Wow. Okay, that's where I'll probably leave it there. But I was there at the opening at Center Square on Saturday. Appearances busy mural. And the talent around here is amazing. And I think it's just the start of what's to come for sure. And June 28th, I attended the funding gathering for the active transportation meeting on our government funding provincially and federally. That was definitely a proud moment for us. And July 20th, I was invited to a Make-A-Wish invitation. I attended it, met the family and their child that received the wish along with sponsors. So I said, you know, it's always easy to give a donation, but boy, when you show up there and it's all happening, it really pulls at your heartstrings for sure. And just to go into a few miscellaneous events, July 7th, I met with the mayor and discussed the council committee policies, some of my affordable housing ideas, which is one of my passions, and downtown Kentville tourism. Mentoring coaching meeting on governance and assorted topics on July 2nd. I did a climate change leadership Zoom correspondence, and I finished the university course that I was taking to learn more. Coffee meeting with the president of FCM, Amanda McDougall, and municipality, representatives. And the one thing, the big discussion, you know, you think that you're tired of talking about COVID, but every time you talk about COVID, something new comes up in the learnings as to, you know, how everybody's dealt with it. It was very enlightening. A couple of webinars, equity, engagement, and civic leadership, exploring the intersections of climate change and poverty webinar. I also had a great meeting on July 12th with physician community navigator recruiter Brianna Hall with Chamber of Commerce. And I was so passionate about it, I joined her team of volunteers. And July 13th, I met with CAO on affordable housing ideas and reviewed my local research with many questions of, you know, am I going in the right area, sort of thing. July 21st, building smarter, sustainable hotels and buildings. And it was funny when I came into the room tonight, somebody was talking about climate change and where we were. And when this webinar, they were talking about retrofits and, you know, getting buildings ready. They said 11% of the materials that we use contribute to climate change. I thought that was actually quite high because, of course, I didn't know. But anyway, it was very interesting. July 22nd, I met with the deputy mayor and I discussed with her the role and expectations of deputy mayor. I met with Anne Graham on July 18th at the Kentville Historic Society. And I signed up to be a volunteer for Opportunity and Learnings about Kentville, which I absolutely love that building. And July 16th, climate change partner correspondence with town hall committee partner to find out, you know, what's been going on, if there's anything I can contribute to and learn. And July 9th, I did talk, I had some correspondence about the Mentoring Plus strategy with executive director on success of hiring and process moving forward. And I thought about Councillor Maxwell, who she had asked me last time. The update is there is a new hire who's been local and has started, and I'll get more information into the next few weeks, and we're working towards a meeting to sit and discuss plans for the upcoming year. So, and some correspondence with residents. He was work on Burke subdivision, subdivision, affordable housing, diversity committee for Kentville, and they also want to talk about flowers in town. That's very important.
All right, thank you very much. What's next one?
Thank you. Let's see. The last council meeting was June 28th, and the last council advisory committee on July 12th. My apologies for being late at getting the student bursary committee report in. I meant to have it last council meeting, but better late than not at all, I figure. I'll give a report on that in a minute. July 19th, accessibility committee, which I will report on, and also July 19th, the CAO evaluation, where council met to review and summarize the evaluations done by staff and council on our CAO. So the student bursary committee, the committee would like to congratulate the following recipients of the town's student bursaries this year. And we had 4 of them. Cameron Oikel, who will be attending Acadia University. Emma Taylor, who will be attending King's Tech. Michael Hatt, attending Mount St. Vincent University. And Keisha Rain Thorson, attending St. Mary's University. And so we would really like to extend our congratulations to those students on completing their high school and heading on to post-secondary. So that's great. The accessibility committee, as Councillor Huntley mentioned, this was the last meeting for the accessibility committee as it has completed its mandate to develop an accessibility plan for the town. The group met to look at I called them pillars of accessibility and inclusion, with the intention of giving the new committee some recommendations as they begin to move the plan forward. The areas that we looked at were goods and services, the built environment, information and communication, awareness, emotional intelligence, employment, transportation, education, and procurement. And so I don't think there's anything left out there that that could possibly need to be addressed. I think this next committee has their work cut out for them. Citizens are asked to keep an eye out for the advertisement for citizen representatives for this new committee, the Kentville Inclusion and Accessibility Committee. So I imagine we'll get a call out for people to join us on that committee soon. Town of Kentville events, July 6th, Jaden's Walk for residential school victims and survivors. A great Kentville turnout to welcome Jaden to town on his walk, and a very poignant event and very moving, I thought. And for a young person to take this on, all the credit in the world for him to be moving this on and forward for his community. So I think that was wonderful. And the mural festival was great, and I have my report in before that, so I'll report on that next time. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to follow up on your graduates, they will be doing their event on July 28th. So there'll be something happening in Center Square, and it's around 6:30. And July 29th is the rain date.
Oh, great.
Yes, so they do have a rain date, but it is this week. So that's Wednesday, July 28th.
Certainly. Councilor Maxwell, the bursary committee, is that just high school students going into secondary, or is it people who have been out of high school for a little while going into post-secondary?
It would be students that are graduating and then this year and moving on.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, moving along. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Same as the rest of the folks here, the last council meeting and last CAC meeting. June 28th was our audit committee meeting where we reviewed the synopsis of the March 31st, 2021 financials with Andy Force of Kenton Duffett. Town of Kentville is considered gold standard, and we certainly appear to be in line to have a considerable amount of our FCIs in the green, which tends to be the norm. For us, that's our financial condition indicators. And I would invite folks around the horseshoe here and certainly the residents of Kentville to review the annual report that's prepared by the finance department along with the financial statements. They prepare a great report each year. July 14th was the KBC board meeting. There were some discussions around a welcome package and what that consists of. There was the events committee gave an update which talked primarily about the site map for the mural festival, which I attended the opening and was around a little bit for it on the weekend. And it was just, to Councillor Huntley's point, it was an incredible festival, first of its kind. And certainly the talent around here and abroad is incredible. So hats off to KBC and the town of Kentville and the gallery, Ties Gallery, that together. They talked about a multimedia committee proposal, an iSans presentation. There was a vandalism fund proposal discussed, and then there were some discussions around the facade. And certainly their minutes are always on their site as well, so those can be reviewed. July 15th was Investment Advisory Committee, where we reviewed the reports and recommendations from our investment advisor. We are sitting at just north of 14 million. One of the updates that hopefully we'll have in the next month or two would be the response from the Minister of Municipal Affairs around the status of our IPS investment policy statement revisions. REMAP was on July the 19th, where we had a COVID update. We talked about the program Alert Ready, discussions around the 2021 hurricane season Atlantic forecast, heat advisory response system, and Kings Remo social media. And everyone around the table knows Dan Stovall, and he always does a very fulsome report. And just the work that he's doing in the committee is just incredible. So thanks to Dan on that. July 19th was regional sewer, where a compliance update was provided on the effluent. BODs and TSSs, total suspended solids limits were up primarily due to the summer algae bloom. The capital update provided on the desludging of the Lagoon 1. They hope to remove all of the sludge for except the bottom of about 1 to 2 feet. And they may be able to remove some sludge from cell 2 and provided that that's within budget. It's important to note that the quality of the sludge coming out of the cell 1 is quite good, with low levels of metal and pharmaceuticals, etc., which makes it certainly more desirable to compost out of the New Brunswick, to use it for compost out of the New Brunswick facility. I also attended the June 28th announcement, the Fed and the provincial funding for the AT plan totaling 2.6 million. And of course, like most of the other councillors, I attended Land and Tooney's journey in memory of the unmarked graves and Nada's journey through our town. I was certainly both proud and honored to have attended that. Various other correspondence with residents and also my meeting with Councillor Huntley. And July 19th, a special council meeting to discuss the CAO performance review. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor York.
So it's a light month for me in terms of report because all of my committees meet later this week, just the timing of our meeting and theirs. So it is a light month. But I will mention that the town hall sessions for the police committee or the police commission, I neglected to say it earlier, would be after the new chief is hired. So probably mid to late September, residents could expect to see something like that. And it would be shared with the town of Kemptville Police Services and council pages as well. So the mural festival, I was delighted to be part of the events committee to get that rolling. It was a lot of hard work. They certainly did a lot of work prepping. I was put to use somewhat. I don't know how helpful I was, but I was there. And it was a lot of fun. The murals obviously are fantastic, and I think they've been enjoyed already so far. They've certainly livened up the town in a very short turnaround. That's really exciting. I have attended the finance committee as part of the Annapolis Valley Regional Library. They're putting together a draft investment policy that's going to be presented actually later this week at another finance committee meeting. And again, Landon's Journey of Awareness. Later that week, I attended a sweetgrass planting down at Miners Marsh, which was organized with Rachel Bedingfield here in Parks and Recreation and Carolyn Landry. And along with Councillor Gerard, we did the police chief interviews last week. That's my report.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Zapian.
Thank you. Like the rest of you, I attended the regular meetings. I also attended Landon's walk through town. This was really remarkable, as the other councillors stated, to see this young gentleman come in, and it was very nice to see staff participate as well. It definitely showed our community spirit. I just want to highlight on the 14th of July, I met with Mayor Snow and CEO Trope in the mayor's office shortly before noon to question them about the allegations in the Kelly Rice letter, which I had received anonymously on the 13th. I will not go into the details, but there were serious allegations in there dated July 30th of 2020, and they disturbed me greatly, so as they were directed to the council and mayor. I explained that the letter had arrived in my mailbox anonymously, and I questioned the mayor if this is why CAO Rice was terminated. The mayor did not comment, and I explained that this letter worried me greatly. Some of our staff have been in this building for decades, and they definitely deserve more. At that time, Mayor Snow demanded for me to provide her with the envelope that the letter had come in, and I declined. This is when the mayor became angry and asked me, or told me that the police would be over to collect.
Point of order.
And see me. For what?
You must speak to the.
Yes, for what?
Excuse me?
What's the point of order for?
The
point of order because you're going in.
Me.
I'm not disparaging you. I'm giving the details of
you made a comment about my demeanor in a room,
right?
Which is your opinion. There were 2 other people in that room,
right?
And
a building full of people too.
And none of it concurs with what you're currently saying. So please stick to the issue and not people.
That's fine. I declined to provide the envelope. I left the mayor's office and returned to my business. The police never showed up. That same afternoon at 4:32 p.m., I made a request for all of council to have an emergency meeting to discuss the events that had transpired that afternoon. made this request 2 times and was declined both times. There was no conversation on what had happened, and on the morning of the 15th, the next morning, I was threatened with a lawsuit by a firm in Halifax that the town had hired, telling me to A, never mention this letter during my time on council, and even when I am out of this office. I was also told to never mention that there was a threat of a lawsuit, and I was requested to sign a document indicating as such by 4 p.m. the following day, which I declined to sign and I will not sign. I am very concerned with the working environment of our dedicated staff at Town Hall, as indicated by former CAO Rice. The staff has been bullied, threatened, and harmed, in my opinion. From the date of the letter, it seems CAO Rice's position as CAO was terminated the same day her letter was delivered to council. We must work hard now to ensure that our staff is well, working in a healthy and safe environment. We're fortunate to have the staff working for the town of Kentville, and I would not want to jeopardize that. Thank you.
Thank you. And my report is the next report. So on the 24th of June, I attended a combined board meeting of the NSFM and AMANS with regards to our affordable housing feedback to the province. And then Valley Wren board meeting, again, monthly updates, recoveries, and some new projects coming up. Specifically, we have received funding for tourism through ACOA. So it's going to be a huge project for the Annapolis Valley. On the 28th of June, we met as an audit committee. The 29th of June was Valley REIT. We actually had a really great briefing by the Nova Scotia Business Incorporated on projects and availability of support to businesses. So many of you know that through the pandemic that they actually had several special funds that they provided to small and medium business. Typically, they deal with a lot of export type businesses, but as the province was recovering through the COVID, they made funding available. I am now on the NSFM election subcommittee, and you would have all received your NSFM Monday Minute tonight. And there's actually a link to our page on the election that talks about the important work that NSFM is doing and our collaboration with the province, particularly on things like extended producers and a few others. So if you have a chance, have a look at it. It's really quite nice. NSFM board meeting, we actually had the opportunity to meet with the then Minister of Department of Municipal Affairs, Brendan McGuire. And again, we were talking about our NSFM issues and our ongoing priorities. And of course, you never have one of these discussions without talking about affordable housing. So that was there as well. Kings REMAC, again, I'm the chair of that committee, so I'll go into the comments further below, and then a special meeting for CAO's evaluation and Valley Waste. I just want to say that thank you so much, Councillor Gerard, for not being available on the 21st of July. Because as you well know, I really love garbage. And I'm going to tell you, it was one of those meetings where I came out of there with more ideas than you can imagine. Anyway, it was all good. So Town of Kentville events, and I'll go into more later. 28th of June, we had a funding announcement. So federally and provincial funding announcement for our active transportation plan in Kentville is $3.6 million. And the town of Kentville contributes $900,000 to that over the coming years. So this is absolutely incredible for the town. And so when you have an opportunity, I'm speaking to all of the town, is to have a look at this plan, because it's really going to connect things. And and you marry that up with our accessibility plan, and this is just going to be absolutely spectacular. On the 8th of July, I had the pleasure of attending the Miners March celebration. Again, Carol and Landry planted some sweetgrass, and sweetgrass has to be planted near salt water, or it doesn't do its thing. And she also offered a prayer and performed a smudging. And the sweetgrass was provided by the Wolfville Baptist Church as part of their Reconciliation Act. And then the next week, I was in Wolfville, where the Baptist Church was actually planting the tree in the park, and they chose the sugar maple because in the fall it will turn orange, which is consistent with the Indigenous colors. So particularly for reconciliation. So very, very interesting. Oh, another one of my favorite summertime activities is the CEED Junior Entrepreneur Camp. So they have run a camp here in Kentville for the last 4 years. And basically they take on 6 young teenagers, and these kids become entrepreneurs, and then they sell their wares. Unfortunately, due to COVID, it was adopted, or shifted a bit. But typically what they do is they go into the market on our Wednesday market, and they do a market analysis. So they go around asking people if they would be interested in buying something if it was there. And then the next day they set up their market and sell their stuff. So anyway, there were 16 kids, and I'm going to tell you, these kids are just absolutely amazing. We have no fear for the young entrepreneurs that are coming up. And I mean, these are teenagers. These are young teenagers, and it was wonderful. I attended an NSFM webinar on Mi'kmaq 101. We are all treaty people with Robert Bernard. I've spoke of him before. Please, if you ever have the opportunity to hear him speak, he's absolutely wonderful. On the 29th of June, the CAO and I had a check-in with Minister Brendan Maguire. And of course, he was calling up to see how things were in Kentville, and gave us an opportunity to chat with him and talk about some of the important work we're doing. Our audit committee met on the 28th of June. We recommended the financial statements, reappointment of the committee and our auditor to council, and that occurred at our special meeting we had a special meeting before CAC on July 12th. And again, just excellent questions coming up from our members of the committee. The REMAC met, and I think the deputy mayor pretty much covered it all off. And Dan just loves hurricane season. I mean, he's a former Navy guy, so you can well imagine being in one of Her Majesty's Canadian ships on the ocean during hurricane season. So he's got some great stories, and absolutely loves doing it. There's another really interesting thing. They brought in the use of something called the alert system. And this alert system actually gives us the capacity and the capability of using it. So for example, there are some things that only Dan and the REMAC people can put out. But let's say we had a boil water advisory. We could actually put this into this alert system, and then what happens is that it automatically goes to all the radio stations and gets put out. So it streamlines some of our procedures, and it's there. So if you get an opportunity to have a look at the King's Remo website, there's more information there. The other thing I will remind you is that if you know any elderly people who may be living alone, who haven't signed up for check-ins, you can do that on the website as well. And particularly, with heat advisories and, power going out, it's always nice to know that people will have that safety. So moving on to Valley Waste, there's a new forklift arriving at the end of August, and on Friday I actually got to go over there and do an RFP evaluation on the new front end loader. So that was really cool as well. It probably won't be here until next year, but I've already committed to getting a ride in it, pushing some garbage around. So the other thing that they were talking about is that they've done a lot to improve the maintenance around the grounds. Particularly cleaning it up and kind of making it look nice. So there will be no meetings in August. However, the next meeting will be September the 15th. Valley Waste always provides a variance report for their budget just to show where they're up and where they're down, sort of thing. New projects, they have a new contract with Scotia Recycling, and again, the front end loader bids. I got to do that. And miscellaneous events, met a couple of times with Councillor Huntley, and I also had a meeting with our Green Party member Doug Hickman, which was very interesting. He has a lot of background in actual, I'm going to say, execution of green projects, and he has done projects in support of FCM, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, in other countries. So it was a very interesting conversation, and I have provided you with the education updates and social media updates from Valley Waste. And that is my report. Are there any questions? Councilor Maxwell, please.
I'm interested to know, when we talk to the minister on the state of Kemp, like what kinds of things is the Minister of Municipal Affairs interested in the state of Kemp?
So his big thing right now is affordable housing and the Affordable Housing Commission. And of course, we had just got our $3.6 million. So of course I had to brag about that.
Yeah.
And so, just those things. And of course, me and garbage. So I had to push the old EPR thing and tell him that I had been at another meeting with Minister Irving, and, we had talked about EPR at that time. So if he could push this way and Minister Irving is pushing this way, then, we help each other out, right?
Okay,
and,
great.
Yeah,
I was just wondering what they do.
Yeah, no. he's actually, he's very, very engaged. Yeah. Like he's just, I can't wait till I guess no point in even saying, because who knows if he's going to be our minister. But, he would have been one of those guys you would have loved to see at NSFM, because he would have had a lot to talk about. Yeah, thank you. All right.
Mayor Snow, just a question around the tourism funds that are coming through ACOA. I believe that there are a few projects here at the town of Kemp that may qualify under that tourism grant.
So that's a different grant. This is another one again.
Oh, it's a separate one.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is a STAR program, and ACOA ran it in Newfoundland in 2019 before COVID. Okay. And what they did is they took a part of Newfoundland. I think it was the Green Bay area, kind of like the top of Newfoundland. And what they did is kind of recreate how they wanted to act together and put some money into hotels and that sort of thing. So STARS is completely different than this other funding. So we have in the town of Kentville some pretty good access to funds.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So moving on to our new business, if there's nothing further on that one, is the African Nova Scotia Association proclamation. So the first day of August is known as Emancipation Day around the world, and it is the anniversary of British Parliament's decision to abolish slavery across the empire in 1834. The Slavery Abolition Act 1833, which took effect in 1834, freed about 800,000 enslaved people of African descent throughout the British colonies. Between 1749 and 1816, approximately 10,000 people of African descent came to Nova Scotia. This included the Black Loyalists, refugees from the War of 1812, and indentured servants as well as the Trelawney Maroons and enslaved people of African descent who were brought to Nova Scotia against their will. Once the Slavery Abolition Act 1833 took effect, Canada became a free territory for enslaved people of African descent escaping from America. In 1997, the General Conference of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, designated the 23rd of August as International Day for Remembrance of the Slave Trade and its Abolition. The importance of the day is connected to the people of African descent in Haiti, and Dominican Republic fighting for their freedom, which resulted in liberation from the European colonizers in 1791. Globally, 1st of August and 23rd of August honor emancipation and acknowledge the tragedies of the transatlantic slave trade in which millions of African descended people were enslaved or lost their lives. In Canada, the House of Commons unanimously passed a vote on the 24th of March, 2021 to designate the 1st of August as Emancipation Day in Canada. In April 2021, Nova Scotia introduced legislation to recognize the anniversary of abolition in slavery in the British Empire. And the town of Kentville follows suit in recognizing the 1st of August as Emancipation Day. And that concludes our new business.
I have questions.
Certainly.
I'm wondering why we don't fly the flag of these different groups when they have their special weeks and so on. And I've looked at our flag policy, and I think maybe it might be time for some revision, but I noticed that, you know, African Nova Scotians have a time, the Indigenous people have a time, the gay and transgender people have a time, and we don't show anything like that. So
exactly. And Councillor Maxwell, that's an excellent point. And it's I'm going to say that it's one of those earmark things for our strat planning. So as you know, we only have one flagpole here at Town Hall, and it must fly the Canadian flag. However, if you think of all the work we're doing in Center Square, making it our people place, what if that became the place where we flew that flag and we had the celebration and, you know, and we made it a place of celebrations. So
I think it's something that, you know, we as a council should look at for the future, that, you know, to be an inclusive community. This is something I think that, you know, we should look at.
Exactly. And perhaps we could take it on as a council rather than pushing it to accessibility.
Yes, you know, I think it might be something we could take a lead in. And
all right. CAO, did you?
So there's a number of policies, and I think to the council's point, that there's a number of policies we have that need more than a small refresh to them. So certainly happy to provide advice back to council. Council is interested in taking that one on personally.
I think it's a good idea. I'd like to see that. I don't know about my colleagues, but I think it's time.
I think you got a lot of head nodding.
I think so too.
So we'll call that consensus.
That sounds good to me.
All right. Certainly, go ahead.
There is a letter.
Okay, please.
Okay. So I hope I'll try to have my booming voice just so people at home can hear. This is a letter from an email that came in during the meeting from Kimberly Kehoe. My name is Kimberly Kehoe, and I'm a resident and taxpayer in Kentville. I'm very concerned about the letter from outgoing CAO Rice that was published in Frank Magazine. I would like to see the comments addressed, including how much of taxpayers' money has been spent to keep it quiet. Was it more than the $138 the Kentville Silver Gliders was asking for in interest relief? Was CAO Rice dismissed for bringing forward staff concerns? If so, the optics definitely suggest that's the case. Then what kind of recourse do the staff have for their very serious allegations? What does that dismissal say to the new CAO and his ability to address the future concerns of the staff of the last CAO was dismissed for it? I've personally seen your behavior, Mayor Snow, and it is atrocious. We can't have people in power with that type of mentality, and I think you need to do the right thing and follow Julie Pyatt's example and resign. I've personally worked at an organization with a toxic work environment, and that type of culture isn't efficient or productive and results from a fear-based leadership style. Your employees won't grow or develop, and frankly, you're doing lasting damage to their mental health and self-confidence. I'm really disappointed in the majority of council who are not speaking out against the bullying. You are part of the problem if you are not standing up against it. Kim.
Anything further? No. Thank you. All right, we'll move into our in-camera for the remainder of the business. The council has confidential matters which must be conducted in a closed session. We require a motion to go into a closed session to discuss the agenda items. We will not be returning to Facebook Live for completion of the meeting or adjournment. So the motion is to move into a closed session to discuss the agenda items.
So
Thank you. Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council move into a closed session. This question is on adoption of motion to move into a closed session. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. The time is 7:04. And Jason, if you could